Hello chaps, so I've been asked to give you a quick video to explain the fundamentals of the new map editor's systems to you. Now there's no planning that's been put into this, so what you're seeing right now is me entirely ad-libbing, and I expect this won't be perfect by any means. Now obviously this video is going to be quite short, and I can't cover everything. The new map editor does, I'll be focusing on the concepts to give you the best start so that you can hopefully explore it a bit further yourself. But you can always ask anyone else in the Foundry, or you can question us, the developers, directly. Myself or Nano have quite a bit of experience with this system, although admittedly not as much as I would like. So it's going to be very important we get a bit of feedback from you as well. Obviously everything's susceptible to change, so things in this video may not be the same as when you see them in the game itself, just so you're aware. So the first thing I've done obviously is I've gone to the map editor menu. You can see this has changed a little bit. We've removed a few things around here because most of this is now driven by the actual game mode you're running. These rule sets determine what you can do with a map and where they appear in the lobby system of Orfeo. So for example, the Deathmatch King of the Underhill and Core Shards modes are all very much straight skirmish modes. They'll appear within the menus, and they'll all have very basic rules. You won't be able to use scripting here. You can see MightyScript is not enabled on Core Shards, but Core Shards are, obviously. My Pet Dungeon, Scenario, and Custom all have MightyScript enabled, and they all have a lot of other features. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a scenario map. I've made one earlier as part of making the trailers for the announcements, just to show you how some of these systems work and how you can use them to create scripted and interesting, hopefully interesting, levels. So I'm going to go to load map, and I'm going to load my little test map that I made for the announcement trailer. This was, of course, the first time I experienced using MightyScript, so it was a little bit of an adventure. So here we are, we've loaded into the map. As you can see, it's relatively simple. We've got a large Empire base, a small pre-set-up Underlord base. No gold. Going to be a bit of a hard map for the Underlord. And no other settings. You can also see there's a small Empire outpost that I've just set up here. Apologies, my Slack may be giving us a few messages throughout. Okay, so the first thing you need to be aware of, obviously, is this button over here, which is the configurator, the map configurator, I called it. I think it's just called the, in fact, it might still be called that. It's called nothing at the moment. This is an unvinyl icon. That's something we'll be getting to. If you click that, it'll open up the configurator and all the tabs that are in it. Now, at first glance, this can be a bit overwhelming, but what you're seeing here is a lot of interconnected little systems that work together to create interesting stuff. First of all, you'll obviously want to look at your map settings. You can see here it tells you some things. Unfortunately, these can't be edited. You can edit a few things when you re-export the map and import it again. Map size, unfortunately, it's not going to change, and I realize that's a regular request from people. You can also select your game mode here. You can change between game modes. If you do this, it's pretty important to be aware that obviously, like changing from scenario to deathmatch, some things won't be enabled. It'll tell you conflicts that exist, and you won't be able to switch game modes without resolving the conflict, or at least you won't be able to export the map. If you resolve the conflicts, it will just remove things. So just be aware this is more used for switching from a deathmatch to a scenario, or from, more importantly, a legacy map, which was made before 2.0. But the options are here, and it explains what that doesn't go back to the configurator. No! You can also select your map theme here from Snow, Dark, and Bloody, as well as the default Earth type terrain. This will open your previews folder, which will store your images, and you've got a bunch of different things selects for the preview thing. I'm not actually sure if this is working yet. That's one nano. You can set your description here as well as the objectives that appear on the screens of the lobby. So, for example, the custom scenario menu will have a key objective. You'll have seen this in the My Pet Dungeon maps because it uses the same UI. What is here is not exactly a changeable thing. It's not dynamic in any way. You just say what you want the person to achieve. And of course, you've got your faction settings down here. Now, as far as I know, in the current build, these aren't finished, and I would struggle to exactly explain what they do. But essentially, what you set here is considered practically logged. So if you set Underlord has this color, then they're going to have that color, and they won't be able to change it. Likewise, you'll be able to change some people into AIs, or remove their AIs standings, give them different difficulties, and such and such. I believe you'll also be able to leave things unselected, and in that case, although it says random here, I believe that, for example, if the player Underlord didn't have things selected, the player in the menu would be able to set what they want. So if that's what you want from your campaign or your scenario, then that's what you do for that. And that's just map settings. Fairly straightforward, but obviously there's still a lot to happen here. A lot of this isn't hooked up yet, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to this in a way that will explain it a bit better. Obviously, one of the things that's missing is tooltips on everything, so this is why you're getting this video. Now, the big part of the new map editor is, of course, the triggers, what is known as MightyScript. It's actually a sort of like middleman system that reuses a lot of MightyQuest code in places, as I understand it anyway, but it is basically an entirely new thing. So everything you've seen here has been made specifically to allow people to use it. And obviously we've gone for something which we think is a little bit easier to use, although it's not perfect, because obviously we're quite stretched for time, and this is basically the best we could do in that time. So the structure of a trigger, as you can see, is made up of events, conditions, and actions. Now, at first, obviously, you're seeing this. This looks pretty complicated. It's actually a really simple trigger. And it just basically handles what happens when the objective is completed. So in this map, I have a Lord of the Land stood over here, and he is the objective for my player. I want to know if the Lord of the Land is KO'd. So I've got an event here saying, oh, on KO, target the Lord of the Land. So if the Lord of the Land is KO'd, then proceed with the action. Basically, any event will trigger a trigger. So if you have another event saying on spawn a unit when this Reaper spawns, the Bafu spawns, give it a description of whatever. Then when you're waiting for that, if either of these things happens, so if the Bafu spawns or the Lord of the Land is KO'd, then the action will proceed. The thing that blocks this, so essentially this is what's known as an OR statement. So if the Lord of the Land is KO'd, or this Bafu is spawned, then do these actions. The extra thing here is the condition. The condition basically says, even if the event is fired, don't do the actions unless all of these conditions are on. So I've got a switch here. It actually does nothing, because the game isn't set up for that. I suppose that's not technically true. So this is a condition checking if a switch is on. You see there's a few conditions here. This is a very basic one. So essentially, what I'm checking for is the switch ID of dead brother. If that's true, then this is okay. Please proceed to the actions, and then it will do the actions in sequence. So it will toggle cinematic mode, spawn the artifact. Now a switch is a thing that's configured here. See, we've got the switch dead brother, it's number 0, and it has a value of on or off. Simple. There are triggers which can set these switches to on or off, and that's simply how it works. If I want another trigger, boom, like that. You'll notice they're called booleans. For those with a bit of programming knowledge or mathematics knowledge, you'll know what a boolean is, true or false, 1 or 0. Oops. Making all the noise. So, yeah, that's basically that. So when the Lord of the Land dies, all of this stuff happens. We also have a trigger. This is probably one which is quite important for setting up maps. I call it init patrols, but basically it's just initialization. So when the map is started, that's what onStart means, we go through a bunch of actions as soon as the map starts to get things in a state that we want it to be. So first of all, we assign some patrols. You can see here the Templars. These Templars actually set off on a patrol route, and one of them will start walking around this area. The other one will walk around the room like this. Now how that's set up is we have a patrol group here. So you see we've got a couple of patrols. And if I click add here, you'll see this is my patrol group. They're actually in the floor. No! Right now. They do have numbers on them. I don't know if there's a limit to the number, so it might get a little bit confusing. There might need to be some improvements on how this is displayed. But yeah, so these are our 4 points in this patrol group. And you can see each of these has a range and a pause. But I'm not going to go into that very much at the moment. All you need to know is that there's a trigger on the start of the map, no conditions, so every time, no matter what else is happening in the game, assign the patrols to the Templars, assign a patrol to the Lord of Healand, he actually stands in the spot because of that. It sets an attackable shield on the dungeon core, which means it is invulnerable and cannot be destroyed, but it can be attacked. And it has several anchors, which are the inhibitors. When the inhibitors are destroyed, the shield is removed. And you see require all anchors here. That's the difference between an and an or statement, essentially. So like it's saying, with this, when this is ticked, require all anchors. If inhibitor 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all destroyed, then remove the shield. That's a sort of like a little interesting thing you can do with this, although there are other ways to do it. We also have set A for shield, which creates a shield over on this gateway here. And you can see it's in A for group 1. I don't know if we're actually keeping this, but it's a little interesting thing you can do if you don't want an attackable shield. Although in a way this actually makes sense for what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Now, so basically, what I want to do, and what I'm going to show to you, is how to add a couple of things to this map to basically change up the experience. Now you see we've got our little camp here. We've got a couple of stone knights in here, level 7 stone knights. The idea being that I don't want people to come here and take this down so quickly. I'll also want some patrols to come in, some parties to attack the player every now and then. So that's what we're going to set up. So first of all, let's get these stone knights patrolling. So we'll go into our configurator. We're going to create a new patrol group, and because basically I've already assigned these to pink, which I, in my mind, am imagining is the big area of the map, the big empire base. I'm going to choose a different color, so I'm going to just choose violet. Colors don't matter. All it does is it gives you a way to sort of like sort your things, make them easier to find. You can filter using this up here, this button. You see I've turned on blue and now everything's disappeared because I don't have any blues. But I have a violet. I'm just going to have this violet. Now there's only one. Remove it, bunch of them. So I'm going to call this Stone Knights. Okay, so we're going to look at our configuration first of all. This is something that's always in here. And all that's in it is whether it loops. If a patrol loops, then once it gets to the last point in the patrol, it will try and move to the first point in the patrol. This is so you can create those nice circular, square, or whatever patrols more likely square, because this is more for the overworld and it only deals in squares. So I'm going to set that to on because I want these stone knights to be walking around in a sort of like circle. I'm also going to click add so I can add my patrol point. Put one here, the second one there, third one there, the fourth one there, and in fact you can actually see these rally flags have come up with their numbers on them: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. That's great. I have a patrol point, but there's no units assigned to it yet. Currently, it's not possible to assign a unit via its context menu, although this is something we talked about. But for the moment, you'll have to use triggers. So we need to essentially assign these stone knights to this patrol group. So we go back to our triggers. On init patrols, again, simple on start, assign patrols here. We're going to add a trigger. And we're going to find assign patrol. Stone Knight 1. So I am going to add one of the Stone Knights to this patrol, and then I'm going to create another action, which is going to add the other one. And I'll explain why I'm going to do that. So first of all, I'm going to use my magic finder up here. I'm going to click on World so I know exactly which one I'm clicking. So I'm clicking on this one down here. He's now in my group. You can actually see been added here: Stone Knight ID and his location. The little minus button tells me if he's the selected thing or not. You can also have triggering objects. What this means is if your event has been triggered by something, then you can have that be the target of an action. So for example, if I had one of the Stone Knights walk out of this door and I had a little area here that detected that, then I could have it so that they leave that, they get this triggering object patrol, and they go and attack the Underlord. If they just leave or wander out or something like that. Not that useful. And as you can see, I can remove something from the selection. It's gone now. Although he's still glowing. No! Oh god, this has all gone very wrong. There we go. He is now selected. He's now the focus of my action. And I'm going to select my patrol route. Again, the magic finder gives me patrol routes. It's currently selecting front door ID 0. That's not the one I want. I want Stone Knights, which is perfect, right? So I want Stone Knights. I'll select Stone Knights, and then I also want him to start at a specific point in the patrol route. Now, if you remember, we placed down 4 things. And if I'm not mistaken, or at least I hope I'm not mistaken, this actually starts at 0. So this is reference 0. This is reference 1, 2, 3. Despite what they say on the flags, that's very confusing. No! That's what we want anyway. So this is perfect because if I remember correctly, this was number 1 or number 0. Okay, that's perfect. He's starting at 0. Now we will add another sign patrol. And we'll just select Stone Knights ready, then we'll click unit types, select this Stone Knight over here, and we'll get him to start at point 2. Now, either way, if this doesn't work, I think it will work anyway. But I believe this should be point 2 here. It actually has the number 3 on it, Nano. I'm being harsh on Nano. Sorry, Nano. And hopefully he will start at that point, and you'll get both of these knights sort of walking around in a square exactly the same distance from each other the entire time, unless they run into something, of course, but there's not much you can do to avoid that. These knights are just going to look like they're guarding this place. Perfect. So I've got my Stone Knights patrolling. Next thing I want to do is I want to set up a party that attacks from this portal every now and then. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to parties. We're going to create a new party and call it Invasion Group. We'll leave it as green because why not? I don't currently have much use for the sorting, but like for example, we could say green. These are all like the hero parties that occur on a timer, or they're the hero parties that come from a certain overworld gateway. Again, this is just something you need to account for in your design. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a party containing Zeruzimov as the leader, level 1 Zeruzimov. He's going to be carrying 2,000 gold, and we're not going to change any of these stats down here, but as you can see, we can select his level, we can give him some gold, we can also add a multiplier here that will change damage, and these support decimal points. You can have like 0.5 like that, I believe. Although obviously it's not expressly clear, and there is some sort of like validation on that. So if you do something that you can't, I believe that it should stop you. But anyway, we want him to take 100% damage, and we want him to deal 100% damage. We don't want to be changing the rules in this map as such. And we'll also give him a Templar and a second Templar, so the 2 Templars. One thing we need to add actually is some sort of like cloning tool or a copy and paste, which will probably speed up a little bit of this. Making notes for myself. So we got our 2 Templars, and we're going to add a priestess as well. Why not? That's great. We've set up our party now. Party invasion group. Brilliant. So another thing that we actually need. Oh, didn't want to do that. Delete that. Another thing we actually need in here, I believe, is a sapper, so they can dig towards the enemy location. Brilliant. So we've got our invasion group. Now, how do we get in the map? First of all, we're going to create a timer. Now, what a timer does is it triggers an event every time the timer reaches a certain number in seconds. So, for example, if we want this attack to come every, we'll just say 10 seconds, it'll be great for timing, cause it to loop, which means the timer will continue endlessly. And we want it to fire an event. Now, currently we don't have an event for it to fire. Let's go back to triggers, trigger, spawn, invasions, on event ID 0. I believe that will work. So like that's our event that will trigger this, and we want spawn party. Great. And we'll select from our party list. We'll select invasion group. We don't have a patrol route yet. We'll get to that. And we want them to spawn in the world. Now we can look in here for maps props. Only Underworld Gateway in there. I don't know why that is. I would imagine that an Overworld Gateway would show up there. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's an oversight. That's fine, because we can just go spawn in the world, spawn them in the middle of this gateway. There we go. We set our spawn location. Spawn delay will give them a 1 second spawn delay, which means between each unit there will be 1 second. Away you go as they walk out of the gateway. Great. So we've got that. We've got our timer on 0 every 10 seconds. This is going to loop. And in fact, it's not enabled currently. And we're going to leave it not enabled because we want something else to happen, which is in our initialization trigger, we're going to set timer action start timer 0, boom. So at the start of the level, that timer is going to start looping, which is great. Party's done. Now we need a patrol. So we need to make a simple patrol here, dungeon heart. So these guys are going to attack the dungeon heart. We don't want it to loop because we don't want it to go between patrol points. We're going to add some quick patrol points. First of all, as soon as they come out, they're going to go to patrol point 1, 2, and then they're going to make their way straight for the dungeon. So they're going to find a path somehow. And as you can see, like we're actually going to set a range, radius of 4. In fact, let's make that 5, and no pause. To explain what these actually mean, range means a radius of how far a unit goes from the center of the tile. So, like, if you set a radius of 1, they can go to any tile next to them. Ideally, you want a radius of 0 for, like, the solid patrols, but like for people going elsewhere, then having a little bit of a range makes it look a little bit more organic. And the pause is how long in seconds that they wait at that location. Again, this supports decimal points, so you can like use 0.1 second, 0.2. I can't quite remember what the minimum is, but Nana would be able to explain that better than I would. So we've got our dungeon heart, we've got our party, brilliant, and every 10 seconds, starting from the map this time it goes, every 10 seconds, spawn invasion, on event, spawn party, no condition. So the condition, we're actually going to set a condition for this, and we're going to make it this one here, gateway dead. So that's false right now. So if the gateway is dead, we don't want to be firing these invasions off. So let's add condition is switch on, which is gateway dead. Trigger on switch true. No, we don't want to trigger on switch true. So we want it to be false. Switch on. In fact, we're going to invert this. So I believe that this is one of the things, because we haven't put in much thought to how these things are worded yet. It's not expressly clear what these things mean, and again, no tooltips. But what this actually means is if the switch is not on because it's inverted, then we can trigger the action. So at the start, the switch is not on. Now, if you remember, we created a shield actually on this here, so that it can't die. It can't be attacked. But if we want to stop that, we're going to create another trigger. And we're going to have on die. And we don't actually want to do an action yet. On die, not on die, on KO, I think it is. On KO. Item? Yeah. Perfect. So we want to have, see, I've placed a few of these little mana vaults around belonging to the Empire. The idea behind my map is that the Empire are using these to power the gateways, the gateway shields. So by destroying them, we will take away the gateways. Now, as I said before, we have the ability to sort all that out in an actual shield setup, but this way I can kind of show you. Why is that not on it? Oh. This doesn't appear to be working. Bug report on that. Fine. We'll make it so that if you kill these two Templars, no, not those two Templars. If you kill the two Stone Knights, yep, Stone Knights, two Stone Knights there. If these guys are killed, if either of these guys are killed, importantly, what we're going to do, just so we have something new and to explain another concept, we're actually going to use an integer, or as we're calling them, no, we're still calling them integers. Fine. So we're going to create an integer. Now, what an integer is it's a piece, a bit of memory, something that's remembered that represents a whole number. So we're going to call this Stone Knights. Cool. So, and on these Shield Knights, I'm going to add an action to this, modify integer, Stone Knights, by amount. How it works. Yeah. So we're going to modify this integer by the value of 1, which means we're going to add 1 to it. So it starts at 0 and ends at 1. Now, to remove the shield, what we're going to do is we are going to create another action, which is on the KO of the exact same Stone Knight. In fact, we will use duplicate action to duplicate the Shield Knight's command. We've already got the KO here. we'll delete this modify integer, and we'll add a condition instead. Is integer stone knight more or equal to 2? Which means if we have a value of 2 in this integer, we're going to perform the action, which is going to be remove shield on our gateway there. So we're going to remove the shield that's on the overworld gateway, the shield that we set up in initialize controls. So now we have that. We have our stone knights, we have our switches, dead brother, which does nothing. We have our parties, patrols, triggers. I've not covered objectives yet, so I guess what we'll do is we'll just set up one of these. So we're going to set up an objective now. Title: Destroy the Gateway. Vanquish the knight to destroy the gateway. And we're going to give it an icon. What are these? We're going to click that one. Oh god. Combat ally. Sure. Oh, this is for the achievements. I see. Fair enough. It probably won't matter, hopefully. So we have our shields here. And we're going to add another trigger, which fires on the KO of the overworld gateway. Yep, perfect. Which sets this objective, so a search objective, toggle objective, complete objective, objective 0. And as part of this, actually, we need to make sure that that objective shows up at the start. So we're going to add in our initialization, objective, toggle, show, objective 0. So theoretically, I think this all should work now. Let's see if it does, shall we? It probably won't. That'll be ironic. I'm trying to teach you how to use something and it doesn't work. So we go into our escape menu, go to save and test, which will load the map. Good thing is it's actually started loading, which means there shouldn't be a MightyScript error. And in fact, you can see up in our corner, we actually have the Destroy Gateway objective. We'll reveal the map so that we can see what